There is a moment in every life that determines the trajectory of everything that follows. It is not the moment of triumph, though triumph has its place. It is not the moment of failure, though failure teaches its lessons. It is the moment when you look at someone you care about, someone whose approval you have spent years collecting, and you choose to disappoint them, not by accident, not through negligence, but deliberately, with full awareness of the cost, because the alternative is to disappear into the version of yourself that exists only to avoid their disapproval. This moment is coming for you. If it has not arrived yet, it will, and what you do when it arrives will define whether you live a life that is yours or a life that is borrowed from the expectations of everyone around you. The need to please is not a character flaw. It is a survival mechanism, installed in the earliest years of life when your literal survival depended on the approval of the adults who controlled your access to food, shelter, and safety. A child who pleases their parents is fed. A child who displeases them is punished, ignored, or abandoned. The wiring is deep, and it is powerful, and it does not simply disappear when you reach adulthood. It transforms. It becomes the need to please your teachers, your bosses, your partners, your friends, your social media followers. It becomes the silent calculation that governs every decision, every word, every expression of desire or preference. What will they think? Will they approve? Will they still love me if I choose this instead of that? Most people never escape this calculation. They live their entire lives inside it, making choices that look like freedom but are actually compliance. They choose the career their parents wanted. They marry the person their friends approved of. They live in the neighborhood that signals the right status. They pursue the hobbies that are legible to their social class. And when they lie on their deathbeds, if they are honest with themselves, they realize that they never made a single decision that was truly, uncompromisingly their own. They were always performing, always managing, always optimizing for the approval of an audience that will forget them within a year of their death. The alternative is not cruelty. It is not the rejection of all human connection in favor of a solipsistic existence where only your desires matter. The alternative is the development of what you might call sovereign choice, the capacity to make decisions based on your own values, your own vision, your own understanding of what a good life looks like, even when those decisions disappoint the people whose approval you crave. This is not easy. It is not comfortable. It is often painful, isolating, and expensive, but it is the only path to a life that is genuinely yours, and the only foundation for relationships that are genuinely real rather than performative. The first thing you must understand is that the people you are trying to please do not actually want your compliance as much as you think they do. This is the great paradox of people-pleasing. You are sacrificing your authenticity to maintain relationships that are maintained by the sacrifice itself. The moment you stop performing, the relationship is revealed for what it was, a transaction of approval for compliance, not a connection between two real people. The parent who loves the child who becomes a doctor does not love the child. They love the doctor. The friend who approves of you when you agree with them does not approve of you. They approve of the mirror you hold up to their own beliefs. The partner who stays with you because you never challenge them is not staying with you. They are staying with a comfortable absence of conflict. This realization is devastating when it arrives. It means that the approval you have spent your life accumulating is not real. It is currency in an economy that collapses the moment you stop producing, and the only way to discover which relationships are real is to stop producing. To disappoint people. To say no. To choose differently. To reveal the self that you have hidden behind the performance. Some relationships will survive this revelation. These are the ones worth keeping. Most will not. They will wither under the sunlight of your authenticity, and you will grieve them, and you will be tempted to return to the performance to bring them back. Do not. The grief is the price of the real thing. And the real thing, when you finally find it, will make the loss of all those performances feel like the bargain of a lifetime. The second thing you must understand is that disappointment is not destruction. You have been trained to believe that if you disappoint someone, you will destroy them. They will be heartbroken. They will be devastated. They will never recover. This is almost never true. Human beings are resilient. They adjust. They adapt. They find other sources of satisfaction. The parent whose child does not become a doctor finds other ways to signal status. The friend whose views are challenged finds other people who agree with them. The partner who's confronted with conflict either learns to engage with it or finds someone more compliant. Your disappointment is not a nuclear bomb. It is a boundary. And boundaries, while sometimes uncomfortable, are the architecture of all healthy relationships. What is true is that disappointment reveals the true nature of the person you are disappointing. The person who responds to your boundary with respect, who engages with your difference, who remains present even when they do not get what they want, this person has demonstrated something real. They have demonstrated that their connection to you is not contingent on your compliance. The person who responds with manipulation, with guilt, with withdrawal, with punishment, this person has also demonstrated something real. They have demonstrated that their love was conditional all along, and the condition was your submission. This revelation is a gift, however painful. It tells you exactly where you stand and exactly what you are dealing with, and it frees you from the illusion that has governed your behavior for years. The third thing you must understand is that your fear of disappointing others is actually a fear of your own emotions. You are not afraid of their anger, their sadness, their rejection. You are afraid of what you will feel in response to their anger, their sadness, their rejection. You are afraid of guilt. You are afraid of shame. You are afraid of the internal narrative that will tell you that you are bad, selfish, unworthy of love. These emotions are not caused by the other person's disappointment. They are caused by your own conditioning, your own internalized expectations, your own belief that your worth is measured by your ability to please. And the only way to dissolve these emotions is to experience them repeatedly until you discover that they do not kill you, that you can feel guilty and survive, that you can feel ashamed and continue, that you can be disapproved of and still exist. This is exposure therapy for the soul. You must deliberately disappoint people, in small ways at first, and then in larger ways, and you must sit with the emotional aftermath without rushing to fix it, to apologize, to return to compliance. You must let the guilt rise and fall. You must let the shame burn and cool. You must let the relationship either adjust to the new reality or end. And you must do this again and again until the emotions lose their power over you, until you can disappoint someone and feel nothing more than the mild discomfort of any boundary assertion, until your sense of self is no longer hostage to the approval of anyone outside yourself. The fourth thing you must understand is that the people who are most threatened by your boundaries are the people who have benefited most from your lack of them. This is obvious when stated plainly, but it is invisible in practice. You do not see the extraction because it has been normalized. The parent who calls you 3 times a day and expects you to answer. The friend who unloads their problems on you without asking if you have capacity. The partner who makes decisions that affect both of you without consulting you. The boss who expects you to work weekends because you have never said no. These people are not villains. They are simply responding to the incentives you have created. You have trained them to expect your compliance by giving it consistently, and they will resist the retraining because it costs them something. Their resistance is not evidence that your boundary is wrong. It is evidence that your boundary is working. This means that the early stages of boundary setting will feel like you are being punished for your new behavior. And you are. The system you have participated in is pushing back against the change. The people who have grown comfortable with your compliance are testing whether the new boundary is real or just a performance. They will escalate. They will push harder. They will use every tool that has worked in the past. Guilt, shame, anger, withdrawal, charm, crisis. Your job is to hold the line, to demonstrate through consistent behavior over time that the boundary is real and that the relationship must adjust to it or end. This is not cruelty, it is education. You are teaching people how to treat you, and the lesson is long overdue. The fifth thing you must understand is that disappointing people is a prerequisite for any meaningful achievement. You cannot build something significant without disappointing someone. The entrepreneur who builds a company disappoints the family who wanted them to take the safe job. The artist who creates original work disappoints the audience who wanted more of the same. The parent who prioritizes their child's actual well-being disappoints the parent who wanted them to prioritize appearances. The friend who tells the truth disappoints the friend who wanted comfortable lies. Every act of creation, every act of integrity, every act of genuine leadership involves the disappointment of someone who wanted you to be smaller, safer, more predictable than you are capable of being. This is why the most accomplished people are often the most disliked. Not because they are cruel, but because they are unwilling to pay the price of universal approval. They have accepted that their vision requires the disappointment of those who do not share it. They have accepted that their standards require the disappointment of those who cannot meet them. They have accepted that their growth requires the disappointment of those who are comfortable with their stagnation. And they have made their peace with this cost because they have calculated that the alternative, the life of compliance, is more expensive still. The sixth thing you must understand is that your disappointment of others is actually a gift to them, however unwelcome. When you stop performing, you create space for the other person to stop performing too. When you stop managing their emotions, you create space for them to learn to manage their own. When you stop complying with their expectations, you create space for them to examine whether those expectations were ever reasonable. The parent whose child refuses to become a doctor is forced to confront their own status anxiety. The friend whose views are challenged is forced to defend them or revise them. The partner who is confronted with conflict is forced to develop the skills of engagement rather than avoidance. Your boundary is not just for you. It is an invitation to everyone around you to grow up. This does not mean that everyone will accept the invitation. Most will not. Growth is hard, and most people will choose the comfort of familiar dysfunction over the discomfort of change. But your job is not to ensure their growth. Your job is to offer the invitation by being real, by being the person who does not perform, who does not comply, who does not manage, and then to let the other person respond as they will. Some will rise to the occasion. These are your people. Some will fall away. These were never your people, and some will fight, manipulate, and punish. These are the people who were using you, and their exposure, however painful, is the beginning of your freedom. The seventh thing you must understand is that the capacity to disappoint is the foundation of genuine intimacy. Real connection is not possible between performers. It is only possible between people who are willing to be seen as they are, with all their contradictions, limitations, and desires. And being seen as you are inevitably involves disappointing the fantasy that the other person has constructed of you. The fantasy of the perfect child, the perfect friend, the perfect partner, the perfect colleague. These fantasies are not love. They are projections. And the moment you violate them, you create the possibility of something real replacing them. This is terrifying because it involves the risk of rejection. The other person may prefer the fantasy to the reality. They may choose to maintain their projection by finding someone else who will perform it. This is their right, but it is also their loss, because the person who chooses fantasy over reality is choosing a life of increasing isolation, surrounded by performers who will never reveal themselves, never challenge them, never force them to grow. And the person who chooses reality, who accepts the disappointment of the fantasy as the price of genuine connection, is choosing a life that becomes richer, deeper, and more meaningful over time. The eighth thing you must understand is that your need to avoid disappointment is actually a form of control. You believe that by managing others' emotions, by preventing their disappointment, by being what they want, you are ensuring their happiness and securing their love. But what you are actually doing is controlling the interaction to produce a predetermined outcome. You are not relating. You are managing. You are not connecting. You are manipulating. And manipulation, even when motivated by love, is still manipulation. It prevents the other person from knowing you. It prevents you from knowing them. It creates a relationship that is essentially a contract of mutual performance where both parties agree to play roles in exchange for the appearance of connection. The alternative is surrender, the surrender of control over the other person's emotions, the acceptance that they may be disappointed, angry, sad, or rejecting. The willingness to let the relationship be whatever it is rather than forcing it to be what you need it to be. This surrender is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength. It is the strength to be real in a world that rewards performance. It is the strength to be rejected rather than to be false. It is the strength to lose a relationship rather than to lose yourself. And this strength, once developed, becomes the foundation of every relationship that is worth having. The ninth thing you must understand is that the people you are most afraid to disappoint are often the people who have done the least to earn your loyalty. This is another paradox of people-pleasing. You are most compliant with the people who are most demanding, most critical, most conditional in their affection. The parent who withholds love unless you achieve. The partner who punishes disagreement with withdrawal. The friend who makes you feel guilty for having boundaries. These people have trained you to fear their disappointment above all else, and you have internalized their standards as your own. But when you examine their behavior objectively, you often discover that they have given you very little. Very little support, very little understanding, very little genuine care. Their power over you is not based on what they have given. It is based on what they have threatened to take away. Recognizing this is the beginning of liberation. The people who have earned your loyalty are not the ones who demand it. They are the ones who have demonstrated through consistent behavior that they value you for who you are, rather than for what you do for them. They are the ones who remain present when you disagree. They are the ones who adjust their expectations when you reveal your limitations. They are the ones who are disappointed by your choices but do not withdraw their love because of them. These people are rare. They are worth disappointing when necessary, because they have demonstrated that their love can survive it. And they are worth keeping, because they are the only ones who were ever really there. The 10th and final thing you must understand is that disappointing people is a practice, not a one-time event. You do not reach a state of perfect authenticity where you never again feel the pull of compliance. The conditioning is too deep. The social pressures are too constant. The fear of rejection is too primal. What you develop is the capacity to notice the pull, to name it, and to choose differently anyway. You develop the muscle of sovereignty, the ability to make your own decisions even when every signal around you is screaming for you to comply. And you exercise this muscle daily, in small decisions and large, until it becomes your default rather than your exception. This practice will cost you. It will cost you relationships that were built on performance. It will cost you opportunities that required compromise. It will cost you the comfort of being universally liked. But what you gain is something that no amount of approval can purchase. You gain yourself. You gain the capacity to look in the mirror and know that the person looking back is real, is whole, is making choices that align with their deepest values, rather than the expectations of everyone around them. You gain the capacity to build relationships that are based on truth rather than transaction. You gain the capacity to create work that is original rather than derivative. You gain the capacity to live a life that is genuinely, unapologetically, irreducibly yours. The world does not need more people who please everyone. The world is full of them. They are the ones who say what they think others want to hear, who do what they think others want them to do, who live lives of quiet desperation because they have never had the courage to disappoint. What the world needs is people who are real, people who have done the hard work of discovering who they are and what they value, and who are willing to pay the price of authenticity. People who understand that love is not the absence of disappointment, but the presence of acceptance despite it. People who know that the only approval that matters is their own, and who have developed the internal standards to earn it. So disappoint people. Start today. Start small if you must, but start. Say no to the request that drains you. Express the opinion that differs. Choose the path that aligns with your vision rather than their expectations. Let them be disappointed. Let them be angry. Let them withdraw, and discover through the experience that you survive, that you are still here, that the guilt and shame that you feared are manageable, temporary, and ultimately less painful than the slow death of a life lived in performance. Discover that the people who matter stay, that the people who leave were never really there, and that the person who remains when all the performances have stopped is someone worth knowing, worth loving, and worth building a life around. This is the work. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. It will not make you popular, but it will make you free. And freedom, in the end, is the only thing that makes all the other costs worth paying. Disappoint people. Be real. Be free. And let the world adjust to the person you actually are, rather than continuing to shrink yourself into the person you think the world wants you to be.